Life in 𝐒𝐢𝐬𝐴 began to take a sense of stability, even if it was hard-earned. Dana's days were packed from morning to night. Market sales, lectures at the College of Education, assignments, and caring for 𝐒𝐲. But for all the chaos, there was also progress. Zuma remained her constant source of strength, stepping in to care for 𝐒𝐲 on the days when Dana's workload was overwhelming. "We are family," Zuma would say whenever Dane expressed gratitude. "We lift each other up." Dane's drive to succeed inspired many in the community. Women in the neighborhood often stopped her to ask how she managed to juggle everything. "I just keep moving forward," she would reply, though the reality was far more complicated. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at school, Dane returned home to find 𝐒𝐲 reading aloud to Rio and Lade. At 10 years old, 𝐒𝐲 was already showing signs of brilliance Dane had also prayed for. "Mommy!" 𝐒𝐲 exclaimed, running to hug her mother. "I got 100 in my master's today." Dane knelt and hugged her daughter tightly. "I am so proud of you, my love," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Moments like this made every sacrifice worth it. Despite the progress, there were still challenges. Tuition fee at the College of Education were a constant source of stress. Dane often found herself scrambling to gather the funds, working extra hours at the market, and taking on odd jobs in the evening. One month, when fees were due and her savings fell short, Dane sat down with Zuma to brainstorm solutions. "I have been thinking," Zuma said. "What if we start selling akara in bulk? I can help you make more and you can supply to shops instead of just selling at the market." The idea sparked a glimmer of hope in Dane's eyes. "That could work," she said. "It will be more work, but it could bring more money." With Zuma's help, Dane began to expand her business. She woke up early each day, preparing large batches of akara to deliver to shops in Umuopo and Ajase before heading to school. The extra income made a significant difference, allowing her to cover her tuition and even save a little for emergencies. One weekend, as Dane and Zuma sat together counting their earnings, Zuma turned to her sister with a smile. "You have built something amazing," she said. "You should be proud." Dane looked at the small stack of naira notes in her hand and smiled. "It's not much, but it's a start," she said. "I just want to give 𝐒𝐲 the life she deserves." "You are doing that and more," Zuma said. Meanwhile, 𝐒𝐲 continued to excel in school. Her teachers often praised her intelligence and dedication, and she was quickly becoming a standout student. Dane made it a point to attend every parent-teacher meeting, despite her busy schedule. During one of such meetings, 𝐒𝐲's teacher, Mrs. Lade, pulled Dane aside. "Your daughter is incredibly brilliant," she said. "Have you considered applying for scholarships for her? With her grades, she could go far." Dane's heart swelled with pride. "I will look into it," she promised. That evening, she sat with Zuma to discuss the possibility. "Imagine if 𝐾𝐲 could get a scholarship," Dane said, her eyes shining with hope. "It could open so many doors for her." Zuma nodded. "She is a special child, Dane, and she is lucky to have a mother like you." As the years passed, Dane's hard work began to pay off in bigger ways. She graduated from the College of Education, earning her teaching diploma. The moment she held the certificate in her hands, she felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. "I did it," she whispered to herself, tears streaming down her face. 𝐾𝐲, now a teenager, was there to celebrate with her. "I am so proud of you, Mommy," 𝐾𝐲 said, hugging her tightly. Dane smiled through her tears. "I did this for us," she said. With her diploma, Dane secured a teaching position in a local school in Ilorin. The steady income allowed her to provide more for 𝐾𝐲 and even started saving for their future. She also continued her side business, which had grown into a well-known brand in the community. Through it all, she never forgot the sacrifices Zuma had made for her. "I couldn't have done this without you," Dane told her sister one day. "We are a team," Zuma said, "and we will keep building together." 𝐾𝐲's academic achievements eventually earned her a scholarship to study abroad. The day she received the acceptance letter was one of the happiest moments of Dane's life. "You are going to do great things," Dane told her daughter as they sat together reading through the details of the scholarship. "And I will take you with me someday," 𝐾𝐲 said, her eyes filled with determination. Dane laughed, tears of joy streaming down her face. "You have already given me more than I could have ever dreamed," she said. As Dane watched 𝐾𝐲 board the plane to her new future, she felt a mix of pride and sadness. Her little girl was growing up and chasing her dreams, just as Dane had always hoped. But this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of a new chapter for both of them.